Hello, my sweet orchids. I'm Autumn, and this is my quiet corner for frontier storytelling. If you love Little House on the Prairie as much as I do, hit that like and subscribe button, and welcome to my homestead. Today, we will be reviewing the episode A Child of Pain. Trigger warning. This episode contains multiple themes of parental loss, child DV, and alcoholism. If this episode triggers you, I'm deeply sorry. You can watch my other content. It's okay to know that some content is too heavy for you to watch and you need a palate cleanser. At 32 years old, I love to watch spooky content like The Conjuring, but I know my limits. When I need a palate cleanser, I will watch something like Sesame Street or Bluey to rebalance my energy. There is no shame in that. What's more important is that you take care of your mental health. A man can create a child, but not everyone deserves to be a parent. At the beginning of this episode, I see a man named John. He walks into a horse stable and he grabs a huge bottle of liquor and he drinks it as he stumbles to walk. There's a little boy named Graham. He's playing with his toys. This boy is very nice, respectful, loving, and helpful towards his father. Graham is also helping his father make dinner. His father comes home in a fit of rage because he ran out of whiskey. John asks his son Graham, "Where's my whiskey?" He goes into a huge rage. The little boy tells his father, "You promised me you would stop drinking." He also tells him, "I got rid of all the bottles." The father proceeds to hit his son with a razor strap belt. Graham struggles to concentrate and focus in class the next day. Mrs. Beadle notices this and she asks him to step outside with her. I love how Mrs. Beadle addressed this very sad and heavy burden of a situation without humiliating him. Charles visits Dr. Baker. He paid the doctor for his good service to him. Mrs. Beadle brought Graham to Dr. Baker so he can assess the injuries. Charles wanted to leave, but she tells him to wait. Mrs. Beadle asks Graham to take his shirt off, and everyone is horrified by what they see. The boy is covered in deep purple bruises. He has multiple lashes on his back. Dr. Baker asks the little boy what happened, and he says, "I fell out of a tree." He helps him treat his bruises. She sends the boy off to the next room to talk to Charles and Dr. Baker. Everyone is horrified by what they see. Mrs. Beadle makes a shocking confession. She says that this is the fifth time this week this has happened. She says, "Dr. Baker, what are you going to do about it?" He is going to cripple his son. Charles and Dr. Baker agreed that the man is a huge drunkard. Everyone from Reverend Alden and the rest of the townspeople tried to help him, but nothing is working. Mrs. Beadle is outraged by this. She says, "You're telling me that nothing can be done about this?" Charles suggests that the town of Walnut Grove should work together to help Graham to escape this situation. He comes up with a good idea. Everyone should meet up at the church so they can have a meeting to discuss a safe plan to help Graham be temporarily removed from John's custody so that he can recover from the situation. Charles is more focused on helping Graham. He doesn't care about the father. He tells Dr. Baker, "You are a better Christian man than I am. I don't care about his father. I just care about the boy." The townspeople of Walnut Grove meet at the church to discuss this situation. John comes to the church with his son. Graham looks very scared and sad. His father has a huge chip on his shoulder. He has the audacity to come in the Lord's place and criticize these people for wanting to help his son. This man has some serious low morals, values, principles, and integrity. Imagine starting a bunch of unnecessary drama in the Lord's house, and you put your nasty, dirty shoes on the church seats? Charles steps up and addresses him. John interrupts the meeting and tells everyone, I don't understand why you stick your nose into my business. Charles told him, we know you've been mistreating your son and we want to do something about it. This man starts yelling and screaming. He says, you can't do anything for him and me. Don't stick your nose into my personal life. Sir, if you want to be a drunk, disgusting waste of life, do it by yourself and don't bring your son into this mess. Charles said, we can take the boy away from Graham. Charles Charles suggests that the boy should temporarily stay with someone so that his father can get some help, and Graham suddenly gets sad and anxious. He begs Charles to not take his father away from him. He says, I'm bad sometimes, and he whips me. He begs Charles not to separate him from his father. He says, I love my pa and I want to be with him. Graham and his father leave the church, and everyone is shocked, confused, and sad. Charles and Caroline are disappointed and disgusted by what happened. She says, how could anyone harm a child? She says, how can he love a parent who abuses him? She tells Charles to pray for the boy and his family. The next morning, the children go outside to play for recess, and Mrs. Beadle noticed that Graham hasn't came to school today, and she asks Laura, is your father at work? And she says yes. Mrs. Beadle heads down to Hanson's. She tells Charles Graham hasn't come to school today, and she asks Charles to check up on him. Charles rides in his wagon to the house to check up on the boy. The door of the cabin is wide open. The house is a huge mess. It appears that no one is home, but Charles takes a closer look and he sees Graham on the floor. He's badly injured and covered with more bruises. John is asleep near an outhouse and he is cradling a bottle of whiskey. This man needs help. Charles grabs a blanket and takes Graham to see Dr. Baker. Dr. Baker evaluates the child to see how he's doing. John wakes up in a fit of rage when he sees his son is gone, and he rushes to Dr. Baker's office to interfere with his son receiving medical treatment. Charles steps in and he tells him to leave and let Dr. Baker help him. He tells him, your boy is still unconscious. Charles fights with the drunk father and he tells him how irresponsible and stupid he was and what a sorry excuse of a father he is. John claims he doesn't remember what happened to his son. He needs to get some serious help. This father needs an exorcism, a therapist, and rehab. The townsfolk have another meeting about this horrible man. Everyone talks about how they want to clobber the father, and Caroline reminds Reverend Alden and the people, if you hurt the father, you will psychologically and physically hurt the son in the process. She says he loves his father. If you destroy the father, it will destroy the son. Reverend Alden wants to revoke street justice on the father along with everyone. Caroline's mind is focused on getting them both help instead of taking the father out. She says, if you save him, you will save the father too. Kennedy says, are you asking for the impossible? You are asking for the impossible. Dr. Baker suggests the same thing. Harriet Olsen says, you can't make a silk purse out of a soul's ear. Harriet has some very interesting analogies. She believes you can't do anything to help a drunk abusive father. Kennedy and Harriet says he is a waste of time and help. This man has an addiction to alcohol and he cannot be helped. Caroline tells him, you call helping another human being a waste of time? Kennedy asks Charles what he thinks and he agrees with Caroline. Caroline and Charles agree to let the boy stay with him for a short period of time. Basically, Charles goes over to John's house to assist him in getting sober and help him get his life together while Caroline takes care of her children and Graham. She tells the boy, "You will be okay and you'll be fine." She gives the boy comfort, love, and support. After Caroline is talking to Graham, she discovers that the boy is cooking for his father. She's appalled by this because he's so young. Mary and Laura tell their mother supper is ready and they bring him inside to eat. Graham is worried about his father. He comes to the house to enjoy some food. They all say a prayer before they eat. They look like a beautiful, happy family. This is the first time Graham has had a nice, decent, peaceful meal at a table. Charles stays at John's house to watch over him and help him get sober. He encourages him to get rid of all the whiskey in his home and in that horse stable. He tells him, "I want to be with my family. Get rid of this whiskey. This man has over 10 bottles." Charles says, "We will take it outside and pour it out." The man is unhappy about this, but he pours out the whiskey. John is asleep, and all of a sudden, he has some hallucinations of bats flying around and attacking him. He fights Charles so he can get away from this unseen danger. He does. He is in a serious panic attack. The bat symbolizes the father's internal chaos that he is trapped in while he battles alcoholism. The bat reminds us that darkness isn't always evil, sometimes the signal that healing is trying to begin. It's a signal that healing is trying to begin. When we face what frightens us inside, the shadows lose their power. Caroline gives her children lunch. Laura and Mary offers Graham lunch and he says, "I don't want lunch. I never come to school with lunch. I want to go home and be alone like I always do." Graham is developing unhealthy coping skills to deal with being abused by his father. Laura tries to encourage him to take the lunch and he refuses it because he is embarrassed about being separated from his father, who was both abusive and alcoholic. Caroline came up with a great idea. She told Laura and Mary, "Take Graham's lunch to school with you all, and when lunchtime comes, pretend like you're sharing with him." She also tells her daughters, "Don't tell anyone about this horrible situation." Laura says, "It's no one's business." Her daughters promise not to tell anyone about this bad situation because it can lead to a ton of long-term destructive behavior with Graham, and it can also lead to him quitting school. Charles tries his best to look after Graham's father. He's trying to help him sober up from the two of them building some kind of shed. He encourages him to keep on working to keep his mind off of the alcohol. Graham is helping Mary feed chickens. I love learning new facts about animals. I didn't know roosters were boys and chickens were women. She explains the difference to him and he tells her that she tells him that the girl chickens lay eggs and the roosters are boys. Mary gave him a chicken to take care of. This is so sweet. He's having so much fun petting the roosters and feeding them. John is having painful alcoholic withdrawals. Charles helps him get inside the house. Laura and Mary help their mother clean the kitchen and do dishes. Laura told her mother Graham was outside cleaning the horse stalls. Caroline encourages him to get some rest and come inside the cabin so he can resume the work tomorrow. He asks Caroline to build a cage for his chicken so he can take it home. He mentions something about his father and he He said he misses his father. Caroline gently reminds him he can't see him right now. She tells him, "We have the same problem. You miss your pa, and I miss my husband." Charles and John do some work together that consists of building a cabin of some sort. John helps Charles carry and cut logs of wood while Charles cooks supper. Charles is such a good man. He cooks and provides people with support, and he's also very resourceful. I love how some frontier people literally took what they had and make the best out of it. They had black bean soup and cornbread for dinner. That sounds delicious. John tells Charles, "I don't think I have what it takes to get through this." Charles tells him that you have what it takes to get through this hard time. He reminds him that you have what it takes to get through this difficult situation. Graham builds a cage for a chicken. Caroline helps him with this. She is starting to become attached to this boy in the best way. She says, "We're going to miss you when you go back home." Graham asks about his father. He asks Caroline, has he stopped drinking? And she says, "I'm sure he has." He tells her he always gets mad at him when he drinks. Graham tells Caroline about his mother, Lucy. She died after she gave birth to him. He says his father only talks about her when he drinks. Caroline tells him this is a normal part of life. He says, "My pa misses her a lot. When he is drunk, he gets real mad and he takes his anger out on him because of her death, and he never remembers what happens." Caroline tells him, "You shouldn't blame yourself for your mother's passing." He says, "I don't, but my father does." John is taking his grief pain out on his beautiful, precious, sweet boy. John comes by to see Reverend Alden. Basically, Reverend Alden comes by to visit Charles and to give John some much needed encouragement to help him with his alcohol problem. It seems like this man has lost his faith in God. John is very mean and rude towards Reverend Alden. He basically tells him, "Leave me alone and mind the business that pays you." Reverend Alden tells Charles to take it easy on him. John complains about Reverend Alden coming by to see him. Charles tells him to chop some wood. Charles asks John what did his wife die of, and he said she died after she gave birth to Graham. Charles holds him accountable for his disgusting behavior. He told him what Graham told him. He says, "What you did is blame your son for his mother's death, and now you're taking your anger out on him as a punishment." He doesn't deny his cruel behavior towards his son, and Charles tells him to keep on cutting the wood. "I'll find something else for you to do." Charles is a very brave and lucky man. He's lucky that John didn't attack him with that axe. As a loving, devoted father, Charles is disgusted by this. Remember in the previous episode, "The Lord is my shepherd"? Charles had a son that perished. John is anxious and restless. He can't sleep. He's thinking about the pain he caused his son in his alcoholism. He leaves the cabin at night and he grabs some whiskey he had stashed away. Instead of drinking it, he pours it out. Charles is quick on his feet. He sees him do this and he looks like a proud father. John said, "For many years I didn't realize he blamed Graham for his wife's death and he feels bad for it." Charles says, "I'm going back to sleep. I miss my wife and I want to go back home." Caroline, Graham, and the girls have breakfast. Charles is back. Mr. Ingalls is back home. He gives his family a warm hug and he tells Graham, "Your father is outside." The two of them hug. He looks at his son as a blessing and not a burden for his pain. Moral lessons: don't internalize the abusive behavior of your parents. Be kind, patient, and gentle with yourself, the same way a doctor would be gentle with a patient who is recovering from third-degree burns. Pain is passed down. Pain passed down isn't destiny. The episode reminds us that suffering we inherit, rather through family, trauma, neglect, or abuse, doesn't have to define who we are. We choose compassion instead of repetition. Healing begins when someone says, "It stops with me." Guilt can destroy or transform. The choice is yours. The father's guilt eats away at him until it nearly consumes him. But guilt isn't meant to be a prison, it's meant to be a signal. When we use remorse to change rather than hide, it becomes the first step towards redemption. Children mirror the emotional world of adults. The son's pain isn't only physical harm, it's the emotional confusion. Children absorb what adults model. This is a reminder for anyone raising, teaching, or mentoring a child: your peace becomes their peace. Forgiveness isn't forgetting, it's freedom. The forgiveness that surfaces in this episode doesn't erase what happened. It simply lets light enter a space that's been dark for too long. Forgiving someone doesn't mean excusing them, it means refusing to carry their burdens as your own. Community is an antidote to silent suffering. When the Ingalls family and the townsfolk step in to help Graham and his father recover from the trauma that they're going through, it shows that healing rarely happens in isolation. Shame thrives in secrecy, but empathy and love multiplies when shared. Reaching out saves lives, literally. When you reach out to help someone that is struggling with abuse, you give them ambition to stay alive and take care of themselves. True strength isn't control, it's vulnerability. The father equates power with dominance, but this episode flips it. Real courage is saying, "I need help." It's crying in front of your child and meaning it. Love is a bridge, not a reward. Graham's ability to still love his father despite the pain that he's going through shows us that love doesn't have to wait for perfection. It is only for its only force is strong enough to reach when someone lost their own pain, is lost in their own pain. Even in dark homes, a little light can find its way into the cracks. Child's pain reminds us that no matter how deep the hurt runs, love and understanding can reach it. Healing doesn't always happen in one grand moment, it happens quietly. When someone chooses kindness and love instead of anger and frustration, every scar has a story, but the stories can end in hope when we decide to change the ending. That's the beauty of being human. We can rewrite pain into peace, one choice at a time. Well, that's all for today's Journey Must Be Orchids. Until we meet again, may your days be peaceful and your home be filled with love and kindness. Thank you for stopping by. I'll see you next time.